This is the story of how I set the world record for the most damage done in a single battle of Pokemon Pocket. Actually, it did so much damage that it caused a game-breaking bug I had to report to the Pokemon Company. Every time you fight a battle in Pokemon Pocket, the game adds up every single attack, every single little point of damage throughout the whole battle. On the end screen, you can see the total damage you did, and unlike damage from single attacks, which does have a damage limit of 990, the endgame total damage has no limit that I could find. In theory, you could do hundreds, even thousands of total damage. So my gamer brain wanted to know what the world record for the most damage in a single battle was. I did a bit of research, read some Reddit posts, and I found that the numbers people reached were actually pretty low. Some of the highest counts for total damage were around 1,000 damage total, and that's because the player had hit the 990 damage cap on a single attack, maybe attacked one other time or something, and then ended the battle. This is where I got really excited. No one had even come close to what I calculated the maximum theoretical damage could be. That meant, in theory, I could set the world record. So I got to theory crafting. Oh, this is the fun stuff. This is what I like doing in games. What strategies could I come up with to do as much damage as possible, the most possible damage, in a single battle? Well, first, I needed to figure out what limits I was working under. I wanted to make the battle last as long as possible. In a normal PvP battle, the game will automatically tie at the end of the 30th turn, but in a solo battle against the AI, it can last until the 50th turn. So this gave me two options. I could either play against the AI, and I'd have an extra 20 turns to rack up damage, or I could play against a human being, work with them, cooperate with them, and that would let me use strategies where I could control myself and my opponent. While I was making this decision, I realized there was a big obstacle in my way: winning. You see, if I accidentally won the game, it would end, and I couldn't do any more damage, so I had to avoid winning. Unfortunately, KOing a Pokemon gives you a prize point, which I'm gonna call a penalty point, because if I get 3 penalty points, the game ends. I need to avoid winning, so I realized that it would be better to pick the option where I had 30 turns, but I could cooperate with my opponent. This way, we could use clever strategies to avoid them losing the game, and actually make it last 30 turns. So I asked my sneaky buds in my Discord, and 𝐸∞ volunteered to help me execute these strategies. I sent 𝐸∞ a list of cards I wanted them to build a deck out of, because it was important that I not only build my deck perfectly, but my opponent's as well. We started off by playing a series of test games to try out some of my early strategies, and while I'm showing you our not at all scuffed first attempts on the left, let me explain what we were trying to do, and what we would eventually use in the final run. My primary goal was to hit the single attack damage limit, that's 990 damage, 3 times in a single battle, which as far as I know has never been done before. This is pretty insane, because most people only manage to do it once using a Moltres Alakazam strategy. The idea is you have your opponent use Moltres EX to put tons of fire energy on a fire Pokemon over the course of the whole battle. Then you switch in Alakazam and defeat their Pokemon, getting extra damage for every energy attached. The downside to this strategy is you only get to do 990 damage one time, because after you defeat the fire Pokemon, there's nothing left for Alakazam to hit with tons of energy. This is why most players have only done about 1,000 to 1,100 or something damage in a given battle. Now, you might be thinking, oh, sneaky, no problem, just use Celebi. Plenty of people have hit the damage cap using Celebi, but, well, it's not that simple. Actually, it's not even possible. You see, getting lucky with Celebi once is easy, but getting lucky 3 times in a row in a specific game is impossible. It's probabilistically impossible. This is because Celebi does an average of 50 damage for every 2 energy attached, or 25 damage for every 1 energy attached, based on averaging the coin flips and the damage done. That means I would need 40 energy on Celebi to have an average chance of doing maximum damage. Of course, you could hit maximum damage with Celebi if you get really lucky with only 30 energy, but you would need over 40 energy to do it 3 times in a row. Is that even possible? Well, I decided to do the math. In a game that goes up to a 30-turn limit, player 1 will be able to add energy to a Pokemon 14 times. Player 2, however, can add energy on their first turn, as well as the last 30th turn. So player 2 can do it 15 times. But this means that even if I was player 2, and even if I drew Celebi on the first turn, I would only have 15 energy on Celebi. Using Superior on my bench, I could probably double that, since Superior doubles all grass energy on grass Pokemon. But that's still not enough. It would give me 30 energy, no, actually even less than 30 energy. Remember, as player 2, I want to attack with Celebi on my last 3 turns. This would be turn 26, 28, and 30, so I would KO exactly 3 Pokemon and end the game at the last possible moment, letting me do the most possible damage. But that means that I need to have over 40 energy on Celebi on turn 26. Based on the math, this strategy using Superior would only give me 26 energy on Celebi by turn 26, meaning I would only have about half of the energy I needed. Ugh, it's not possible. It can't be done. There's no way to do it. Unless... enter Lilligant. Most people stopped running Lilligant when Superior was introduced into the game. This is because Lilligant does a very small amount of attack damage, only 50, and costs 2 energy to use their attack. 2 energy for 50 damage is awful. The only reason people used to run Lilligant is because its attack will give a benched Pokemon 1 leaf energy, but most of the time Lilligant would get KO'd before you even made back the energy you spent on it. However, that doesn't matter. This is a challenge where all of the downsides to Lilligant are upsides. Since I'm working together with my opponent, Lilligant will never be KO'd, and I can add additional energy to Celebi every turn. And with Superior, it's doubled, so I'll get 2 extra energy onto Celebi every turn, while doing 50 damage every turn to rack up damage for the damage total. This 3000 IQ play of using Lilligant and Superior with Celebi is the only possible way to hit the energy numbers that will allow me to do maximum single target damage 3 times in a battle. Before I tell you any more of the strategies and math I'm using, let's actually go into one of the battles so that I can show you what I'm doing as I'm explaining it. Since several of you in the past have commented, you kind of want to see what I'm talking about while I'm discussing the strategies for these challenge videos. I read all the comments, yeah! After a little bit of resetting, Colby and I finally managed to get a game where I was player 2. But remember, being player 2 wasn't everything. I also needed to have Petalittle in my hand, which I did. I even had Lilligant and 2 Professors Research. I couldn't believe how lucky I was. Everything was going great. Meanwhile, Colby, my helpful opponent, really my friend, decided to play Caterpie on the active slot, which is exactly what we had planned. You see, Colby is trying to get to Butterfree as quickly as possible, so that we can execute permanent heals on Colby's side of the field. However, I had additional plans for what to do before Colby was able to evolve into Butterfree. We'll get to that in a second. For my turn, I immediately played Professor's Research. Remember, I want to get Celebi as quickly as possible. I didn't get Celebi yet, but I played the Pokeball card, and luckily that drew Celebi. Now, in case you're wondering, I only have 1 Snivy in the entire deck, because it didn't really matter when I drew Snivy. I would eventually get Superior, and as long as I got it by turn 26, we would be good. This made it almost certain that I would get Celebi from the Pokeball card. The only other possibility was another Petalittle. Every single card in this deck, every single card, was made to maximize the probability of getting this awesome hand as quickly as possible. Colby was very quickly able to go for double Metapod and put some energy on Metapod. This is not because Colby's going to attack me with Metapod. This is so that Metapod can retreat to cycle health as quickly as possible until we're able to get the Butterfrees online. I draw a Leaf Supporter card, which isn't really very helpful, and I play another Professor Oak's Research, allowing me to draw an EX Speed and Red card. I immediately play the Red card. You see, 𝐸∫ has used up all of their good cards and only has 2 cards in their hand, none of them Butterfrees. But by playing red card, I force 𝐸∫ to redraw 3 new cards, hopefully some Butterfrees or at least better healing cards. I evolve Lilligant, and I'm able to put the energy onto Lilligant or Celebi, which gives me a bit of a choice. You see, on this turn, I could choose to give the energy to Celebi instead of Lilligant, and by doing so, Celebi would have more energy early, but I chose to give it to Lilligant. Here's why. Even if, hypothetically, next turn I evolve Servine into Superior and so Lilligant doesn't need any more energy to use Leaf Supply, it would still be one less turn I use Leaf Supply, and so Celebi would get the same amount of energy either way. The only difference is I wouldn't have done the 50 damage. Whoa, that was complicated. There's so much calculations that went into this. But basically, the short of it is, choosing to give the energy to Lilligant, even though it would be a waste next turn, would actually not waste the energy and do more damage over the course of the battle, making it the right decision. 𝐸∫ retreats Metapod because 𝐸∫ did not have a way to heal it, and so by cycling it into another Metapod, we could be sure they could take another attack from Lilligant. Now this is a little tricky. You're probably wondering why we didn't switch into 𝐸∫ instead. The logic was that Butterfree has 1 retreat cost instead of 2. So if we could evolve the Metapod to Butterfree, we could retreat it out of there more easily than we could 𝐸∫, and that's why we put Metapod in the active slot on that turn. Every single decision we made during this battle was meant to optimize damage as much as possible. 𝐸∫ was able to throw Erica, which was pretty great, and put in energy on Metapod, guaranteeing we'll be able to retreat it in time for a 𝐸∫ if we need to. At this stage, I just start mashing energy onto Celebi, and I have another decision to make. Do I put Petalil on the bench or not? What do you think I should do? In the end, I decide to do it. The only reason for not doing it is if I wanted to leave the bench slot open, but I couldn't think of a good reason to do that. However, there is a good reason for putting it on the bench. By putting it on the bench, I take it out of my hand, so if I ever get red carded, that's one less thing for me to draw, and this actually does matter later on in the video, as you'll see. All these tiny, insignificant decisions have huge repercussions for everything that happens during this run. I make the attack with Lilligant and of course give Celebi even more energy, and it's crazy how quickly we're stacking energy onto Celebi. Alright, now my opponent has a bit of a problem. You see, 𝐸∫ is starting to run out of ways to heal the various Pokemon. We haven't drawn Butterfree yet, and 𝐸∫'s gotta be a little careful here. So 𝐸∫ plays red card, causing me to reshuffle my hand. Why did 𝐸∫ do that, and why did I tell 𝐸∫ to take 2 red cards in the first place? You see, 𝐸∫ is trying to fish for red card. My red card. 𝐸∫ wants me to draw red card so that I can red card 𝐸∫ to force them to draw Butterfree because there's no Butterfree in their hand. 𝐸∫ retreats to 𝐸∫, because it doesn't look like they're going to get Butterfree this turn, and they need to be able to tank for another turn. However, we're thinking about this, talking about this on Discord, and we decide to try again. 𝐸∫ uses their second red card on me, and luckily I draw the red card we need. Perfect. Just perfect. I immediately am able to use this red card, causing 𝐸∫ to redraw their hand again. They discard those 2 useless cards, or reshuffle them really, for 3 awesome cards, and finally get Butterfree. This is why we each had 2 red cards. This is why from the beginning I said, 𝐸∫, we each have to take 2 red cards, it's really important. That way we could guarantee if we didn't have the cards we needed, we could red card each other to force draw them. How cool is that? I bet you didn't think red card was that cool, but it is so cool. With Lilligant continuing to stack energy on Celebi, we have a bit of a problem. Every single Pokemon is low health, and we don't have any way to retreat 𝐸∫. What do? Luckily, the red card was able to give 𝐸∫ a professor's research that they hadn't been able to yet draw. This was a lifesaver, as finally, 𝐸∫ was able to evolve a Pokemon into Butterfree, and using Powder Heal was able to heal the 𝐸∫ up to the point where it could survive another attack. An additional potion helped out as well, keeping 𝐸∫ all topped up. And at this point, we figured that just by retreat cycling, using Butterfree's 1 retreat cost, we could probably keep Colby permanently alive no matter what we did. At this point in the game, I'm going to fast forward to the end of the battle, because there's not really much else to see. Colby and I continue to cycle through Lilligant attacks and Butterfree heals, and we were able to get to the stable game state that would let us mass energy onto Celebi. The only question left is, was it enough? On turn 26, I'll only have 3 more turns to make moves. It's finally time to retreat Lilligant into Celebi. As you can see, I have 22 energy on Celebi, and I'm gonna go for Powerful Bloom. Sorry, did I say 22? I meant 44, thanks to Serperior's doubling ability. With 44 energy, it should have been great odds for me to get all the damage I needed. Remember, I need 20 heads. But a huge batch of tails in the beginning made it really unlikely that I would get the heads I needed. I was desperate, hoping, staring at the screen. 19 tails. If I can't get 20 heads, it doesn't work. It's scuffed. The whole thing is scuffed. But then suddenly out of nowhere, I got 8 heads in a row and we crossed the threshold. We crossed the boundary with 23 heads. We were able to hit the damage cap for a single attack on the first attack. Woo! Now we just need to do that 2 more times. And if it messes up even once, we're scuffed. For the second attack, I play Giovanni. Now, I know that that's not gonna do anything if we hit the damage cap, but it was fun and I wanted to flex. With 46 coins now, I felt like we had even better odds of getting the 20 heads, but once again we start out with a bunch of tails. Luckily, this time is a little easier and all the heads start pouring in. Look at those beautiful heads. Oh, they're just gorgeous. Now, you might think that it's taking a while for the coins to flip. This is where the bug happened. We managed to flip so many coins that it actually started to paralyze Colby's screen. You see, while this was going on, Colby wasn't seeing the coins flipping. That didn't happen until after the attack went off. Right now, after that amazing, incredible, legendary attack, dealing a theoretical 1,310 damage if there wasn't a damage cap, Colby is paralyzed. Colby is now stuck watching the coin animation and can't pick a Pokemon to bring in. We were freaking out while this was happening. Apparently, if you flip enough coins, your opponent will time out on their ability to pick a benched Pokemon. Luckily, the coins eventually stopped flipping for Colby and they were able to take their turn and didn't time out. This is a pretty funny bug, and I would actually report it to Pokemon after this so that they could fix it, because you really shouldn't be able to use animations to paralyze your opponent's turn. That's not supposed to happen. On the 30th turn, we were finally able to go for the last attack. I decided to play my shiny full art Giovanni card just to make this, you know, a little extra special, as this was the last attack. 48 coins. We got an insane number of coin flips. Seriously, have you ever seen this many coins being flipped before? Yet we still hadn't hit 20 heads. We still hadn't hit 20 heads. So close, please, please, yes! And finally we did it. We crossed the 20 heads threshold, dealing maximum single target damage 3 times in a row in a single battle, for a grand total of 3,530 damage, setting the world record in Pokemon Pocket. If you enjoyed this, feel free to hit the thank you buttons, and I have a special treat for you for making it to the end of the video. This world record is actually beatable. Let me know in the comments if you've stolen the world record from me, and if you do it in a YouTube video, give me a shout out. I hope you enjoyed the fun, crazy, strategic shenanigans I like pulling off on this channel, and I'll catch you later.